This is the story of where everything ends and when something starts anew. A story of dark times, of the death of the gods and the world as we know it. It is the end times. Ragnarök. Welcome to this episode where we take a famous myth and deconstruct it and reconstruct it as a D&D campaign, or at least take lessons from the plot structure and the overall events of the myth. Hopefully this makes you feel inspired to be able to run your own D&D campaigns in a way that is inspired by old myth and its structure. If you have any other suggestions on myths that we should cover or that we should get into, or any stories or types of media you would like to see next, please leave them in the comment. And if you enjoyed today's video, please leave a like. Chapter 1. Winter. The gods are resting, fast asleep, all except Heimdall, who was dealt a terrible fate, to be able to see the start of the end with no way of preventing it. It all begins with winter, but a winter that never ends. A winter with no spring, no warmth, and no sun. People grow hungry, cold, and bitter, with no end in sight. Wars are fought to claim the little that is left of the world. Neighbors and families all turn on each other. It's a war on all fronts, a state of complete anarchy, where men become like ravenous hounds as darkness clouds the world. This is the reality of the end. Fimbulwinter, the D&D. This is a good base setting for a campaign. It is in many ways a Mad Max setting, where everyone is out for themselves. If you want an apocalyptic setting that could fit in the sort of pseudo-medieval tone that D&D has, or any other role-playing game of your fancy, this could be a good starting out point to be able to base your world or your current situation in your world in. It also gives you and the players a clear goal to start to work towards or even solve, namely ending the never-ending winter. Because as you and your players will realize, if this winter continues, their homes, their families, their loved ones, and they themselves are in danger. Everything is essentially threatened by the never-ending winter. You also have a key NPC here from the beginning, namely Heimdall, which could serve as your patron for your player characters and your party, where Heimdall sees things in the future, but he doesn't really know how to prevent it. Perhaps this can be used as a sort of call it a narrative device, where Heimdall is the patron of your player characters and then can send them out to quests which he hopes can help stop the never-ending winter and, in extension, the end of the world. The setting also provides very good opportunities for smaller communities, where I believe that D&D thrives more of. It's hard to manage as a DM those massive cities where you feel like a small ant in a massive anthill. These smaller communities, your party can get to know every one of the town or the small settler camp or even small nomadic camps that roam into this never-ending waste of frost and tundra. Since smaller towns and border cities or border towns would have become the norm, or even nomadic living, as we are kind of in a apocalyptic setting, right? These massive cities will not be able to sustain themselves in this never-ending winter. How are they supposed to grow food? How are they supposed to do much of anything, really? What people kind of resort to might be infighting and also to scavenge what is left. Warring tribes and rulers of these communities will also provide you with good opportunities for side quests or plot hooks, as the tension and the infighting will only increase the longer winter keeps going. So you have kind of a clock situation where the more winter continues, the stakes are higher and higher and higher, and there are less and less and less resources, which means that your players are actually working against the clock. They will have to, quicken the pace to be able to save the little that is left of these winter suffering cities and communities. Lastly, ruins of old massive cities that have fallen due to anarchy, infighting, and just chaos. They make for excellent dungeon crawl situations. Trudging through a city that is now a ruin can be filled with whatever you fancy, and you can populate it with monsters, scavengers, looters, or tribal warriors, or whatever you would like, really, as your players could go from one place to another, trying to scavenge and trying to survive, or perhaps find answers to what happened. Here you can take inspiration from any post-apocalyptic show like The Last of Us, The Walking Dead, etc. Many zombie settings have these good ways to showcase the scavenger-like dungeon-esque structure where you could base your stuff off of that. And since it's more so a futuristic thing, your players are not as likely to notice that you just ripped off another movie, because you have shifted the setting to this medieval-esque game. Chapter 2. Earthquakes. The mountains move and quake in thunderous crashes. Civilizations crash and tumble in the unfettered anger of the earth. Deep below, sealed in what was thought an everlasting prison, we find Fenris Ulven, or the Fenris Wolf. However, it is no longer bound by its so-called eternal shackles. A wolf which sighs would know no end. In every waking moment, it would expand, become larger and larger. Sealed away and forgotten, the wolf has only grown. As it climbs out of its prison, its jaws open. We see that its mouth, agape, stretches from the earth to the skies. There is nothing it cannot devour. As it leaves, its steps are left with brimstone and fire as flames envelop the wolf that exits the deep. Chapter 2, D&D. The seeds of adventure that you can have to this part of Ragnarök is that this climactic event, these quakes of the earth, as you might call them, these are probably something that both the communities, Heimdall, and the players would like to avoid from happening, or at least shield their sheltered communities from the damages that this wolf will bring as it exits out of the deep. Maybe the PCs can go with the aid of Heimdall to communities, dungeons, ruins in search of items or objects that could help in protecting their community from withstanding the damage of what this unshackling of the Fenris wolf will bring. Maybe they can save their small community. It will be a small victory in the eclipsing defeats that the rest of the world suffer. Adding on to this, every community that the PCs do not protect or fail to protect, they will fall, meaning that the players have great agency to actually see the consequences of their action, whether good or bad, which will only add to what the players feel that there are stakes involved. They can actually impact of whatever it is that's happening. Maybe you can even be so bold as a DM to force them to choose. Will you save this community or the other one? Which do you value the most? Because you only have time to save one. I think this story, or this part of the story, also gives you very good inspiration for how to set up your big bad evil guys or babies or just evil endgame bosses. Summoning or unshackling or just showing your big bad evil guy should be a climactic event where the rest of the world, if you're in the higher levels of your campaign, should have repercussions. stuff should happen. People should feel that this villain is now out and about and at large again. The world will be watching this villain. The world or the region or the community will be watching your player characters. What will they do? Because if they do nothing, doom is the only answer to what this villain will bring, or tyranny. And for this myth, the players will be up against one of the monster that is most feared walking the earth. And it is a ticking time bomb that has been tucked away, slowly ticking. And now it has only become a worse problem to deal with, which means whatever someone decided that, hey, this is an issue we're going to snuff down here for a couple of centuries, it has only gotten worse, meaning the stakes have risen. This thing was so dangerous that they sealed it down there, and it has been growing, festering even more deadly. And now you unleash it again as something that is unknown to just how bad it will be. It will also ensure that the player characters sure as hell know that something has happened, something is coming. This villain will not rest. It will do stuff. It will cause effects around the worlds. You basically force or push your players into reacting instead of only being the player at the table that does the reacting as the DM. Such a climactic event needs a reaction from the players, and this is usually the best player agency you got working, because you present a problem for the players to solve that is very clear. You have this monster. What will you do about it? Chapter 3, Floods. The sea levels start to rise and rise as massive waves start to form and crest over the seas as they slowly rise and rise to later then crash over the shorelines and the lands of Midgard. Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, a serpent so massive that it envelops the known world. It slithers its way towards the lands of Midgard. As it makes its way through the seas and the oceans, poison drips from its fang into the sea life, causing all life below the surface to be snuffed out forever. The rotten carcasses of fish and sea monsters and sea creatures float up to decorate the seabed and the horizon with death and decay. Two children of Loki, Jormungandr and Isilven, are reunited again ashore, and all that will face them face death. Chapter 3, the D&D. The seed of this adventure is, of course, water level. Your PCs get the opportunity to actually be able to shield or save the aquatic life of your world. When the serpent is revealed and will make its way towards the battle, it will leave destruction. And what is most important here is that you make it so that this serpent, that it is clear that they cannot stop it currently, but they could probably stop the fallout that it has. So they cannot fight the serpent yet before leveling up or before actually getting some magic items, etc., or getting help. Instead, what they can do that will actually have some form of consequence and reaction is to try to save the sea life from the poison that Jormungandr seeps out from its fangs. And what you can do is spread out MacGuffins that they would need to find, that they then need to claim from dungeons or whatever, especially water dungeons, which is almost always very fun, where they need to find certain objects, magic items, ingredients, which they need to be able to either make an antidote or some kind of magical ritual to shield the water life of this world. And as if the wolf wasn't bad enough, now we got biblical floods that are happening out in the world. Adding to this, you had one massive big bad evil guy, and now you suddenly have two of them. And this is perfect for a DM. Why not have two of them? Why only stick to one when you can have two? Because this will make your job as a DM much, much easier. Especially for balancing purposes, you have two monsters. You will not be as stuck when it comes to the action economy. So in high level, this is great because you have two of them, each acting at the same time in the initiative order, instead of only having one. And if this thing gets stunned, well, you're basically shit out of luck. But if you have two of them, they might be able to stun one, but two, maybe not. And you can kind of build off each of their weaknesses and strength. The serpent is water, right? The wolf, fire, meaning certain PCs might want to fight this one or this one. And you can kind of build this off of different abilities that might combo each other, or that some PCs will be better suited at fighting this, and some will suit better to fighting this. And then you can kind of share the spotlight in what they are fighting. Chapter 4. Armies, a rumble of banging shields, echoes in the clouds. War cries carries in the northern winds, filling the world with dread. The burning sons of Muspelheim, led by Surtur, ride the Bifrost and the Rainbow Bridge to the world of Midgård, where they leave a trail of ash and destruction in their wake. Not only Fenris was freed from the underworldly shackles that restrained them, Loki himself is freed and is now at the helm of the ship called Naglfar, the grandest and most massive ship ever built solely on the nails of the dead, suited to hold a host, an army of giants. The captain of the ship is, however, not Loki, but Hrym, a frost giant leader. Loki commands not the giants, but in fact, a host, a legion of hell, a legion of the undead, souls without honor that died a disgraceful death, reborn as the walking dead to take their vengeance upon the world and all that is lovely, beautiful, and alive. On the plains of Vigrid, the armies meet. The frost giants, the burning men, and the legions of the dead, joined by both the Fenris wolf and Jormungandr, the snake that holds the world. Heimdall the Watcher sees it all happen, how they gather together. The host, the army, said by prophecy to be the end. The only thing that he can do is to summon those that he can meet his end with, the gods. He blows the Gjallarhorn with all his might. All of Asgard shakes, and one by one the gods rise from their slumber, each knowing what is at hand, their end and doom, as they grab their weapons to meet war. Chapter 4, the D&D. The seed of adventure here is really simple but very effective. Get to the horn. As armies of both giants, burning men, the undead gather all around where the players supposedly want to get to, you have a very clear goal. Wake the gods. You need to get to the horn. Otherwise, you are screwed. Now, you can have your own Bridge of Khazad-dûm here, where your players need to wade through enemies as they make their way to probably like some form of tower to blow the horn, to be able to rouse the gods, to be able to get some kind of hope and help in the coming end. Or there are some other options. You can have your party sneak their way through enemy camps and their lines as their watches cover the horn to make sure that nobody will wake the gods as they enact the end, Ragnarök. But perhaps your players can be crafty enough to sneak through and one by one make their way to the horn and finally save the world without the enemies ever knowing what happened. Another main takeaway point here is how this is a representation that we can use as DMs on how to make a compelling big bad evil army. You got fire giants, you got frost giants, you got two big kaiju-esque level monsters and the Legends of the Dead. Perfect. This feels like a threat. And what's also liberating is that this mixing doesn't really happen when it comes to the source books, right? The monster manual doesn't tell you to mix giants with undead and then also two massive creatures. But it is really cool, isn't it? You can really feel how this is an actual threat. Now, a host of giants might be bad, but imagine two hosts of giants, two massive world-ending creatures, and all of the undead. Climactic. So if you ever feel like you're mixing something you shouldn't, this myth gives you permission. And I think you should be able to see that it does not really matter if you think it's cool, compelling, and especially if it feels threatening, mix different enemy groups together. What is also good about this is that it feels threatening, it feels compelling, and also it makes balancing encounters much, much more fun for you as a DM. Because not only do I have all the giants to pick from, I also have undead, I also have other possibilities when it comes to maybe throwing in a giant serpent or a giant flame wolf, whatever I need. So you've got also key NPCs, you got commanders, you got Loki, you got Thrym, you got Surtur, and you also got two kaiju-esque level monsters, which these can all be perfect mini bosses or big bad evil guy bosses as you make your way to Ragnarök. We will continue the story of Ragnarök in part 2, where we continue where we left off, namely the rousing of the gods. How will the gods respond to this, and how can you make that into the next leg of your D&D journey, where they actually get to fight this army? Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and see you all next time.